Welcome back. Marikana remains one of the biggest blots on South Africa's post-apartheid history. 8 years ago today, 34 mineworkers were killed when police opened fire with automatic weapons at Lonmin's platinum mine in Marikana in the northwest. 10 people, including 2 policemen and 2 Lonmin security guards, had been killed the previous week. The workers had gathered during a strike demanding a minimum salary of 12,500 rand a month. The Farlam Commission recommended an inquiry into the National Police Commissioner at the time and the NPA to investigate several incidents where police may have exceeded the bounds of defence in shooting the strikers. But no police officer has been prosecuted, and there are still concerns about compensation for the families. Legal aid for the Marikana mine workers, Advocate Dali Mpofu, says a team has been assembled to take up the matter against the state and the president in his personal capacity. He joins us now. Advocate, thank you for being with us. Who are your clients right now, and what are they seeking?
Thank you very much, Francis. Thank you. Look, I must say before I answer a question that I found today's commemoration service to be much more somber and sorrowful than usual, maybe because it was the first of its kind being done on a virtual basis and where the people attending were 80% of the victims than just the general public. But coming to your question, I think that's one of the reasons why there was this sense of extra frustration, if you like, particularly around the fact that I'm sure anybody can understand that if 8 years later some of the people have not been compensated, some of the prosecutions, as you mentioned, have not occurred, there's a sense of disappointment, really, because we all thought, even us as the lawyers, thought by now everything would have been done.
Yeah.
So that this have almost, received from those clients that we represented, to come directly to your question, namely the survivors. You remember that there was a separate team that represented the widows of those who died. And then a team which I led, which represented the survivors, those who were arrested, some of them arrested and injured, and then others injured very seriously, such as the one of the people who spoke today was one of the very serious injuries.
And you say one legal case has been settled. What, if any, compensation have those who were injured received?
Yes. Well, no, that's the problem, because the injured persons have not really been compensated. The case that was settled was of those who had been arrested. You'll remember that there was a group of people who were arrested. Some of them spent about a week in prison before we could bail them out. Others spent about 2 weeks. Those people have been compensated. I can't remember the figures now, but it was anything averagely 400,000 or something like that per person. But ironically, the people who really need the compensation because of their medical conditions, as I say, because they were seriously injured. And of course, some of the payments to those who were deceased have not been made. So that's on the civil side of things. And then, of course, there are the civil claims, one was against the company, the other one was against the president personally. And those have also been stalled over technicalities and that kind of thing. So there hasn't been much progress there. Yeah. That's on the civil side of things, or the damages and so on. But as they pointed out, it's not just about money. They also want apologies. They want, closure and a much broader type of restitution than just money. And then on the criminal side of things, of course, is the prosecutions that you mentioned, which have not been done.
And that would involve the police officers. Let's look at the various players. So let's start with the state. So there's been no across-the-board compensation by the state. Do you believe that should happen, as well as the apology from the state?
Yes, it should have long happened because the state accepted liability. You might remember, I think it was 2016 or 17, but more than 2 years ago, they accepted liability because normally in a civil case, you have to fight it almost 2 steps. first to determine who was liable, whether the other person was at fault or not. And then, of course, once they have been established to be at fault, then you quantify how much should be paid. So the state has already considered liability. So it should have been a much easier job to then just quantify the claims, which is where things have been stalling. Yeah. And as we say, 8 years is even just from my own experience, a very long time for people to be compensated.
And are you saying the state is not refusing to pay, but it's taking a long time to determine who will get what? Or are you actually pushing for some form of payment?
No, we are pushing for some form of payment. But as I said, the process is just frustratingly long. Maybe to put it bluntly, we think the state is dragging its feet. We think this could have been done much earlier, about a couple of years ago. If there was a seriousness and sensitivity that this is not just your normal case. I mean, this is something that is quite extraordinary. And, if there was that empathy, I think they could have put a crack team to accelerate this thing so that we don't reach these levels of frustration that I have been experiencing for the past few weeks or months.
Sure. And then you've given the president a time frame to compensate your clients and engage with them. How are you holding him responsible?
Well, no, they are holding him responsible. What they are saying, as I say, there's already a case against him, so that issue is beyond holding him liable. What they want to do is to maybe give him a last opportunity, I mean, which some might say is not even deserved because of the amount of time, but I suppose it is their prerogative to give him until the end of the month to do something, engage with our attorneys. His attorneys know how to reach our attorneys and find a way so that maybe they can be
Advocate, can you hear me? All right. Unfortunately, we've lost Advocate Mpofu there. I wanted to ask him really about that demand. Is this in the president's personal? There we have him back. Advocate Mpofu, so explain to me, is this for the president to engage with your clients as head of state or in his personal capacity because he sent that email before calling for concomitant action?
Okay, yes, that's a good question. Yeah, it's both. As we indicated, both as head of state in respect of what you and I have just discussed now, which is the compensation regarding the claims against the state. But they also would like to engage with him. So the ultimatum they've given is in respect of both in his personal capacity, because, of course, as far as the issue of the emails and his liability in respect of being one of the causes of the massacre so it's both. The short answer is that it's in both capacities, and they are extending, I suppose, an olive branch to say, let's engage, let's just deal with this, not in a legalistic, technical way. Let's be, just human beings, sit around the table, see if we can find a way. And as I say, that he should do by contacting our attorneys.
I understand that. Regards the personal claim, I mean, he did appear before the commission. It wasn't found that he was responsible. Do your clients believe when he sent that email, do they still believe that he had some understanding that live ammunition would be used, considering what the president has said? He had no idea.
Yeah, look, I can't discuss the merits of the case, obviously, but it is, what is in the public domain. The claims are there. We know what the feelings of the, actually that gets into the second question, which is the fact that one of the mandates we have received is for us to review the Farlam Commission because they were not happy with the findings of that commission. But in any event, whatever those findings, they would not be binding on a court of law, as I think we know that.
All right, so final question. I mean, this is 8 years on. You say that the players are dragging their feet. When do you envisage this will be wrapped up, where there will be a sense of cases being finalized and justice being done and seen to be done?
Well, the sooner the better, Francis, from all points of view, because as the victims who spoke today, they all say the same thing. If they are the widows, they will say, look, any amount of money is not going to bring back our husbands. The people that I represent who were injured, their limbs are also not going to be brought back. But they do need closure, and that closure will come when justice has been done, either by way of compensation or by way of apology or some kind of atonement, something broader than just, this is not like a road accident where somebody knocks you and breaks your leg. There are much serious issues around this, and it should be approached in that light as a national tragedy, as something where people's feelings need to be, assuaged, and the bitter experiences that they went through. There are people who still have to go through counseling and so on. So we don't need this kind of acrimony. And quite honestly, I don't understand why the state would take so long, because I think even from their point of view, the sooner this episode is dealt with, the better.
All right. Thank you very much for your time tonight. That was Advocate Dali Mpofu, legal aid for some of the surviving Marikana mine workers.